since I believe that Africa cannot rise without the participation, the real participation of women in the profession. Bridging gender is important not only because it is fair to have a balance of 50-50, but also because several studies have proved that companies with better representation of women perform better. It is also a recurrent subject that has been, on which there has been a lot of debate, studies, articles. It is also a subject that implies differences of views and perceptions, which makes it even more challenging. And this is one of the reasons why this session will be an interactive session, and where I will be asking questions, the same questions, to different speakers, and you will see how we can have different opinions on it. So what are the facts? The fact is that women are underrepresented in leadership positions in business in general, and in the profession in particular. In addition to glass ceiling, women sometimes also face other forms of challenges and of discrimination, such as pay discrimination and gender stereotypes. Now, do we have numbers that prove these facts? Do we have studies? Based on a study made by the consulting company McKinsey, in Europe, for example, women represent 55% of university graduates, but only 11% of executives in leadership roles in listed companies. Based on another study from the ILO, the International Labour Organization, which has covered 126 countries, including a few African countries, the percentage of women with an executive experience, of course, varies from country to country, but it can go from 3% in Pakistan to 59% in Jamaica. African countries also, the percentage varies, and it can go from 5% in Algeria to 39% in Ghana. Now, how about the profession in Africa? Do we have some numbers? While preparing for the subject, I have tried to get some figures directly from a few African PAOs, about 13 of them, that are summarized in the chart that you have in front of you. So as you can see, female accountants are less represented. The percentage of female members in the different PAOs varies from 7% in Benin to 44% in Lesotho. And in total, based on this sample, it's an average of 26%, which is very low. So some countries, some PAOs are doing much better than others. So it is worth investigating within PAFA to get some learning lessons. And I'm sure African PAOs can learn from each other's experiences on these gaps. Another interesting fact is the difference of percentages between trainees and members. For example, in Namibia, they have 56% trainees against 34% members. In SAIPA, 60% trainees against 41% members. In SAICA, plus 50% graduates trainees against 29% members. and in Uganda, 42% trainees against 26 members. So the percentage of trainees is generally higher than the percentage of members. So where do they disappear, these trainees? What happens? Does it mean that women do not resist in the profession and abandon very quickly? How to make them stay? And how to make the profession more attractive to women? Now, in terms of studies, the only study that I could find made by PAOs, African PAOs, is a study from SAICA that SAICA has done with the University of Johannesburg, and it's called Women in the Workplace, Keeping South Africans Female Chartered Accountants in Public Practice. The rare existence of such studies means that there is low interest in the subject and that we do not talk about it enough. I hope that sometime at the end of the session, after the participants' discussions, I could brief you on some of the main action points that came out of this study. If not, I'm sure that SAICA will be happy to share this study. So, why do women face challenges in breaking the glass ceiling? Is it the nature of work? Is it the culture? Is it the long hours? Is it the tight deadlines, fast pace, large amounts of work-related travel that turns women away? Does it become so difficult to balance work and family responsibilities that women abandon quickly? Is it stereotypes about the role of men versus women, about the inner capacities of women versus men? Is it how women perceive themselves or are perceived by others in the workplace? So we shall try to answer these questions during the session by referring to distinguished speakers who have lived the subject inside out, who I'm sure through their personal experiences and professional experiences, very rich as professionals and as leaders, have a lot of learning lessons to tell us and some action points to share with us. The session will also focus on strategies for championing female talent and finding solutions and action plans. Now, before handing over to the speakers, I would just like to emphasize on 3 points and precautions that I think we need to take into account while treating the subject. The first one, our objective is not to do what we call window social dressing, by putting 1 or 2 women ahead, but to have a real representation of women in the accountancy profession, and to allow women with talent to go as far as they want and as they can in their careers. The objective is not to duplicate a male model, but to reinvent a new model where women can find themselves. And there might not be one model and one way of doing things, because women are different like men are different. The second point, we as women should not treat the subject as if we were victims. We are always totally or partially responsible for where we are and what we are, and for making the changes we want. Third, it is a subject that involves that requires the involvement of men, and because it is a subject of society, unfortunately, we did not manage to appeal to a man to be part of the speakers, which means something. And I hope that our speakers will have some suggestions on this, because men are not our enemies in this subject. They are our partners that we need to get more involved. But I see that some men are present, so it's a little good sign. Now I'm going to present our distinguished speakers. So we have Olivia, who everybody knows, and for her work on gender and women. She was appointed into the board of International Profession Women Network in the USA. And we have Taher, who is a board member of FAFA and partner and principal of Mali Consulting Group. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm going to hand over to Olivia.
The other gentleman is helping me out here.
Trying.
I am delighted to see so many gentlemen in the room, because this is not a women's issue. This is an issue that the men have to be part of if we are going to reach our full potential. So I would like to begin by just saying that I stand here as living proof of how much things can change in a very short period of time. I know that because I'm from the United States, that many of you think that it's very different there. But when I entered the profession, it was not very different than where maybe some of you find yourselves right now. For the first 3/4 of the 20th century, women were virtually non-existent in the accounting profession. They often worked in the back office, but conventional wisdom said that clients would not accept women. And so therefore, they were virtually non-existent in the accountancy firms. In the U.S., I entered the profession before something called the EEOC, or Employment Opportunity Act. And so therefore, it was okay not to hire women, and in fact, they didn't. In the accounting firms, women were shut out because of bias and primarily because of tradition. And I know that tradition is very strong in Africa also. So women struggled to enter the profession. That was the world that I entered. I was an eager college graduate. I had my heart set on working for one of the, at the time, big 8 accounting firms for 2 reasons. Number one, I always wanted the best job. I always wanted, whatever the highest thing was to achieve, that's what I wanted. But my second reason was I was about to get married. I was out of college for 1 month before I got married, and my husband wanted to go to medical school, and I was the ticket. He could not go to medical school except for whatever I earned, so I had a very high motivation to get the best job that I could get. But I knew that that was going to be difficult because, as I said, the firms didn't hire women at that point in time for their professional staff, and my concern was confirmed when I went for a day-long interview with one of the big 8 firms. And at the end of that interview, I met with the managing partner, and he said, you've had a wonderful day. Everyone thinks that, you just have great talent, great skills. You've obviously accomplished a lot, but we don't hire women. And I said, well, thank you very much. I don't know why I was here all day, but thank you very much. So I went home, not to give up. My wedding was at that point in time 3 weeks away, and I got a call 2 days before my wedding from another one of the large accounting firms and said, can you come for an interview tomorrow? Sure, my wedding's 2 days away, but it's not a problem. We already have wedding guests here, but I'll drive the 90 miles and come interview. And it was a very good day because I got through at the end of that day. It just happened that managing partner that I met with at the end of the day had 3 daughters who were all about to enter the workforce. He had a very different worldview about women and hiring women because he had ambitious daughters who wanted to enter the workforce too. He hired me on the spot without conferring with any of his partners. He was not some of his partners didn't speak to him for about 2 years. But I was determined not to disappoint him, not to fail him. And in the U.S., the pass rate for the CPA exam is around 30%. They hired 12 people at the same time they hired me, and I was the only person that passed the exam on my first sitting. So I tried to earn my way to credibility and respect with the rest of his partners, and I tried to prove him right. And so I always say there is no substitute for competency when it comes to being accepted. And I think women, that's one of the things we have to take as our own charge, is we have to do our homework, we have to be competent. We cannot expect to get along just because we're women and it's the right thing to do. We also have to earn our way. But we have to have a little help along the way too. So if we fast forward all these years, there are young women entering the profession who are being offered terrific opportunities in much of the world, at least in getting into the profession. For example, in Asia, women represent 75% of accountants, and in Singapore, 69%. The U.S. has had similar advances, with women representing half of all the new CPAs. However, they only represent 20% of the firm leadership, and around the world, in the developed countries anyway, the firm leadership is 25 and 20%. In the less developed countries, it is less than 5% of leadership are women. And I know a lot of you in this room can relate to that. In spite of what I would say has been tremendous progress in many parts of the world, there are areas, and I'm sure parts of Africa are like this, where our work is far from over. Although women today have an increasing presence in the accountancy profession, retaining and advancing women to more senior roles remains a great challenge. Globally, for developed countries, not only are there more women in the profession and we are attaining more senior roles, we also have women who have decided to go into business, and there are fewer than 12% of the CFOs of the larger companies who are women. Countries not only here in Africa, but in Sweden, in China, and Turkey, and others still suffer from imbalances of gender representation in the accountancy profession. Working to overcome these unconscious biases, and I believe many times they are very unconscious, and the inflexible work requirements that negatively impact the advancement of women is essential if we're ever going to realize the competitive advantage of a diverse and more talented workforce that comes from being able to choose your workforce and your leadership from the entire talent pool, not just half of it, which is called men. And so if you want to get the greatest talent, you want to choose from the entire pool of talent. Diversity and inclusion in the accountancy profession is not just the right thing to do, it's a strategic imperative. It's been demonstrated time and again that teams that are balanced and diverse and comprised of both men and women of all races and socioeconomic backgrounds can collectively think more creatively in designing strategic solutions to benefit clients and businesses and the economy. A recent study was conducted where companies with diverse leadership are 70% more likely to capture a new market and 45% more likely to improve market share because they foster an environment that welcomes innovation. And additionally, there's another international study that was done by McKinsey that found that companies with the most diverse leadership enjoyed a 53% higher return on equity than companies with the least diverse leadership. That is a compelling business reason, if nothing else, of why we really need to make great strides in this area. And over the past several years, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and some Nordic countries have promoted initiatives that encourage women to serve on corporate boards, recognizing the positive impact that diversity has on business success. And you say, well, those are countries that really don't relate to me, but as I have said to my Nigerian colleagues, I have worked since 2006 with the financial institutions in Nigeria and with the central bank there. And when I first started working with them, I worked with their corporate directors on corporate governance issues. When I first went to my first meeting with them, which I do a week-long meeting with them, there was one woman out of all of those directors. The last one I did, about 1/3 of the directors that came to the meeting were women. So there's been great progress made, at least in Nigeria. Moving from the private sector to government, it's striking to me that 16 African countries have more women in parliament than Canada, the US, and the UK. That's a statement. You're to be congratulated for that. Rwanda is ranked number 1, while Canada is 48, the UK is 57, and the US is a very, I'm ashamed to say it, so far behind. They are number 72 as far as the number of women in Congress. Some nations, such as Rwanda and Tanzania, have created a constitutional requirement for the government to include a number of women. And we can talk about quotas all day. I have a very strong feeling about quotas that you probably would be surprised, but I'm not necessarily in favor of quotas for quotas' sake. But we obviously see that it is one way to have more women included. And these women are making a difference in these African governments. For example, the large number of women in Rwanda's parliament facilitated passage of certain laws, such as stricter punishment for violence against women. They're focused on those issues because it matters to them and they have experience. Building on our dedication to serve the public interest and strengthen the accounting profession, IFAC has long been committed to diversity and inclusion. I happen to be the first female president of IFAC. But it was widely supported. And so it is not, I think that, everything has its time, has its place. We've broken the barrier. Just like I was the first female to head up the American Institute of CPAs 15, 16, 17 years ago. And I'll never forget, a reporter from the New York Times said to me, this was after 110 years, said to me, "Are you really the first woman?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, all of her experience had been with a lot of women in the profession. So that was just not even a concept to her. And when I explained to her how women weren't in the profession, when I entered the profession, that's just something she couldn't really relate to. So I do think we've come really, really a long way. And I think once we start gaining momentum, that momentum, it just keeps picking up speed. Since then, at the AICPA, we're now on our 5th female head of the AICPA, and this one happens to be an African-American female, is the next chair of the AICPA. So we're making all sorts of strides within the profession in some areas, but we need to broaden that to everyone. IFAC is very committed to this inclusion. In fact, I always say when you measure things, things get done. What gets measured gets done. And we do measure our gender diversity on all of our committees, all of our standard setting boards. And we report that to our board and to the council. And when you shine sunlight on things, it creates different behavior. And I think you have to just shine the light on this and make it measurable to start making a real difference. We're delighted with the work of the African Women Chartered Accountant. In 2002, when AWCA opened its doors, there were only 407 Black women who were chartered accountants in South Africa. This past year, 12 years later, this number was increased to 3,445 women. Last year alone, there were 665 Black women chartered accountants that qualified, more in 1 year than in the entire country just 12 years ago. Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Facebook, once said, "We cannot change what we're not aware of, and once we're aware, we cannot help but change." And that's where we find ourselves right now, understanding the power that diversity brings to optimizing solutions and decision-making. We must encourage all firms and finance teams and businesses and organizations to encourage women to ascend to senior roles. But we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. If we are finding that we are not retaining women or they are not ascending to senior roles, then we need to look in the mirror and say, why not? And we need to reach out, we need to ask the question, what can we do to help make you more successful? And we need to listen, and we need to act. We must choose inclusivity at all levels to maximize the creativity, the insights, and opportunities if we want to fully realize what makes this profession so great. Individually, we may be ordinary people, but collectively, we can accomplish extraordinary things. Thank you.
Now, we're going to move to the questions to the speakers. And the first question, and I will ask Lane to start, is the following. It's a very big question. So why do you think that promoting more women in leadership roles will foster business success in the accounting profession? And I think, Olivia, you have explained to us a lot about this. What are the specific examples of challenges that women face as professionals in Africa in terms of gender stereotypes, age discrimination, class ceiling? And what do you think are the reasons and factors behind these challenges?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In order to situate our discussion within the environmental setting, let me state here that following the theme of this conference, Africa Rising, Partnering for Results in public and private sector. Ultimately, we are talking about management of African resources such that the life of Africans will improve, such that the people of Africa will benefit from their resources. And suffice is to say that traditionally in Africa, that women are the custodians of family welfare, with implicit responsibility to cater for them materially. So, but when it comes to leadership in business and the economy in Africa, women are relegated to the background. You see, despite the fact that accounting is being influenced by globalization, gender asymmetric factors have continued to disfigure the shape of the profession. Because when you come to the lower level of the corporate ladder, there are so many female accountants, but as you move up the leadership position, the attrition rate gets higher. And researchers have tried to conceptualize the this attrition rate of female professionals within feminist theory, and conclusively, they have determined that what is responsible is mere discrimination against women in leadership. And the implication of what we're seeing, joining from the lower ladder to the middle group to the upper echelon, you see that gender gap has closed in education because a lot of women enroll for all kinds of professions as they want. But when it comes to leadership position, the attrition rate gets very tough. The consequences of the current paradigm is that the distribution of talent is lopsided. Again, gender discrimination reduces the available talent in the economy. And more so, inefficiencies arise due to misallocation of talents. Because by the time you refuse to put the right people at the right position, the few people left are encumbered with even responsibilities that they cannot take care of. But for me, the leadership style of men and women are complementary. And this complementarity cannot be neglected. So why do we need women in leadership? There are a lot of reasons why women should be in leadership. Beyond this complementarity, the success of any nation depends on management of its resources, even in corporate organizations. And the role of accountants in business, in organizations, in institutions, the role is to help, to assist in the corporate strategy, to help, to reduce costs, to maximize profit, to mitigate risks. And these are the things that accountants are expected to do. Professional accountants, they have responsibility to the management of organizations, the investors, the creditors, and all of them, even those in government, they are deeply involved in fiscal policies. But most importantly, the skill that a leader needs is strategic thinking. Because whether it's an accountant, whether it's other leadership roles, the leader gets things done through other people. So the leader needs to think strategically. Other elements involve motivation and inspiring ways to inspire others to get things done. So, because you are dealing with human beings, you are dealing with people. Women are not likely bosses that drive people. They lead. So women have attributes of nurturing, of being sensitive, of being empathetic, of being intuitive. These are characteristics of women. And these are the variables that are increasingly associated with effective administration. And these characteristics, they are not just only valuable, they are innate in women. Remember, women are harbingers of life. So they know how to manage people. They know how to motivate people. They know how to inspire. And even research has shown that the few female professional accountants in many businesses and organizations, they have been found, according to Forbes magazine, they have been found to be key pillars in their organizations, helping to create and sustain value and growth. And we all know women have kind of leadership style that enables them to interact freely with their subordinates. They have open lines of communication. When it comes to empowering others, empowerment, women are there. Women are found to be very, very useful and very easy to deal with when it comes to dealing with the subordinate. What are the specific examples of the challenges African women have? The gender issue, the gender stereotypes, because in African tradition, hard work has been reserved for men, and women are said to be fragile and weak. Women are denied easy access in leadership roles because, according to tradition, they don't fit the norm. Women that try to go out of this ideology that we have created for them, they are called different names, even sometimes by fellow women. So this is what the ideology of African tradition about women. So even one writer.
Thank you, May. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just conclusively say, that glass ceiling, too, the issue of glass ceiling, there's no glass and it's not sealed anywhere. That is just a metaphor symbolizing the barrier that prevents women from climbing the corporate ladder. That I just want to make a point here, that for the glass ceiling, that since it's not physical, no number of army will be able to dismantle it. But I know that meaningful dialogue will be able to shatter the ceiling. Thank you.
Because we are running out of time, I'm going to ask Elizabeth to give her comments, but please more specifically on the reasons and factors behind the challenges that face women. Because I want this session to focus more on the second part, which is more solutions and action plan for this issue.
Like a day of fulfillment to see two ladies climb to the height of president of IFA, and the newly created AFA have this female president within a few years. I say this because when I qualified in 1971, which is about 4 decades ago, like she said, that was just, the women were not there, just not there. And so we had to do everything possible to ensure that women were accepted in the profession and then to try to increase the numbers. And today, not only have we done that successfully, we have done that all over the world with the statistics that we say. The train is on. We can move, we are moving. All we want to do with the type of things the dialogue we're having here is to map out a way of getting there faster. I think that's the whole essence of this dialogue and the discussion. So how to set that scene? The reasons are obvious. They are tied to what we said at the beginning. Why were they there? Tradition, way of perception. So I'm not going to go over all those issues that both Olivia and they have gone through. I'll go into the type of strategies that we have adopted and then formulate, see what we can add in terms of action plan to make things work. For us in the Society of Women Accountants, we are representing.
Elizabeth, if we can go to the strategies afterwards.
Yes, I will. Yes,
so if Tahar has some comments to add on this first set of questions, but very briefly, please, because we want to talk strategies and action plans.
Okay, very good. Very good. So as far as those issues are concerned, I think that they're all dealt with. We know what they are. The problems are with tradition. The problems are with ourselves. You have to be, first and foremost, you have to have confidence in yourself. You have to be able to be a go-getter. You have to have a goal, what you want to accomplish. So with those goals in mind, then you can then formulate a policy or a strategy to accomplish it. So what was our strategy? The strategy that like you said, we shouldn't go into strategy.
Yeah, next time.
But I think I'm more of a strategist.
No, French.
Merci beaucoup, Asma. Thank you. And when you ask me why do you think that promoting more women in leadership will foster business success in the accounting profession? I am going to say you, in Mali, the man is an expression of power, the dominance, and responsibility, absolute after God. These are the psychological and socio-cultural considerations that exclude women from public affairs. Malian women are more present in the unqualified jobs. They are also present in the education and health sectors. Those are the basis of family life. They educate their children. Educational values transmitted by women to their children are about transparency, equity, integrity, and responsibility, both shared with the accounting profession. In general, women in the accounting profession are very engaged. In addition of the values acquired in their families, they have a strong academic and professional background to manage professional organizations such as men or better. This is my first question. And when you...
Thank you very much, Shana. I think we now move to the second set of questions to focus more on strategy. And my question to the speakers is the following. What suggestions and recommendations would you make to the different stakeholders? And we have to look at everybody, women as individuals, because they do have a responsibility in this subject, accounting companies, companies in general, ACOA and other organizations. And if you can link that to an action plan that you would suggest in terms of concrete actions and tell us about short-term actions versus long-term actions. And I will start with Elizabeth.
I think the first thing is to see what exactly, to be able to develop a good strategy, is to see what exactly went wrong. And what we have said that the women don't have is lack of access and opportunities. And we have also earlier on said, why don't they have this access? So how do we create the opportunities for women to be able to function properly? The first strategy we used in the Society of Women Accountants in 1978, we discovered that, look, it was a lonely work for women in the profession. So because it was lonely, the first thing to do is to harness what you call a group thing. Find out other women. Are there other women who are in their own world doing the same job? So the first thing was to identify them. We identified them through our institutes. Haven't identified them, we asked them, look, do you think that we can come together and form something, do something together so that we can have power and strength, one voice, And so that was how the Society of Women Accountants came into. So it's a realization, the first thing, to realize that you have a problem. Haven't found out what the problem is, to sit back and see how I can solve this by myself. I need others. And so together, we put our heads together and say, look, we make the what kind of impact do we want to make? We want to make an impact. First and foremost, there were useful components, just as in creation. Man was created first, and then they found it was not good enough. And they were created to make a complete whole.
It was feeling very cool.
We came here to make things complete and sweet. And so any organization, any society that decides to exclude women does not want to make progress. So, having made that as a major focus, the next thing was to say, okay, it will be component of our institute. So we went in there and said, look, we are women, we can make things better. And so we started by making our services available. And within time, they saw that we were assets. And because we were assets, they supported us. And then we were strategically put in most committees. And we began to run things. And like she said, women run things and they run it efficiently and effectively. And the way we start is in the home. We start from the home. Because we do it well in the home, we will not go to workplace and be a different personality. What we do in the home, we take to the workplace. And that is what we did in IDA. Having done it successfully, we looked at ourselves and said, okay, 10 years, it's time. Let's reach out to other parts of the world. And so we set out as women accountants, and we visited Kenya, we visited Ghana, we even went as far as I was telling her to Casablanca, we went to Mali, and different parts of the world, and said, look, women can be active, they can be effective, they can help, they can promote the society. What we need to do is harness yourself, come together, be a voice, and then you'll be able to work. And we did that effectively and successfully. So when Ghana produced the first female president, we were there to celebrate with them. We went in large number. We went to tell them that yes, this thing is doable, and now they produced 3. Nigeria has produced 6. Kenya has also produced, and many other countries. So this is what we do. You have a good thing, you have something good, you have a solution. Go out there, let others know about it. And once they take it, they'll be able to. Another thing we did is we went to, I think it was, we set up the women thing in Africa. And by the way, I'll talk on that later on. The International Federation of Women Accountants with Ghana as chair at the moment, because it used to be Nigeria. I'll come to that. There's a program they have next year, international, I think it's called International Federation of Women. They have a program in Ghana in April, and all the details I will make available to the chair. But what we did in Paris was interesting. In 1997, having gone to IFA conferences or congresses over the years and found that it was all men. We decided that we have a round table. And so in Paris, in that particular year, 1997, we had a forum and the women came together and we got IFA to do. Because what we were saying is that women were not sufficiently represented. Let me tell you another thing we did in SWAN, which is the Society of Women. We went to Beijing. We were the only professional group that sponsored itself to the Beijing conference. We didn't wait for government because we had a story. We had something that we wanted to. And that's why I said to you today is a success story for all of us because we have worked together for it and we are going to start. Now, in terms of action plan, what do we do? There's a lot to be done. A lot to be done. And we all have a role to play. The first thing is to look inward. As women, we should change our organization. The change we're talking about is we need the support of men. And I want to congratulate all the men that are in the house. Without you, we can't exist. That's the truth of the matter. But because you care for us, we are making progress. And whatever we achieve, we owe it to you to say that we couldn't have done it on our own. We can only do it with your support. And because you have supported us and you continue to support us, we continue to look up to you for support. So that whatever strategies we come out with, whatever our action plan, women cannot do it alone. We need your help to do it. So the first thing is the awareness, consciousness that there is need for change, a passionate plea for change. And that change is that our children and ourselves want to have a say in how we are governed. We want to make a difference in the world in which we live in. We want to make it a better world. We want to keep the resources. We want the resources of Africa to remain in Africa, to improve Africa. And we believe and we tell you as women that we working together with you will achieve it. Don't give up. So we did the statistics. I think that's very important. We need the research. We need the commitment. These are very important. And like I said, in every organization, be it PAOs, be it in the firms, be it in the organizations, in the public service, what we are saying is that give women a chance at a higher level and we'll prove ourselves. And once we have proved ourselves, you feel comfortable that we have a better world in which to live in. Let me tell you another thing that we did that was very helpful, that I haven't mentioned. We relate to the first ladies. Because we are women, And we believe that women are influential. What we do is that we help our institute through our liaison with women professional groups, other women, not just accountants alone. We go out to talk to other women. We influence the lawyer, female lawyer. We influence the women in insurance, the women bankers, women in other professions, because women together can make things change the world, the face of Africa. So we did that. And one of the greatest strengths we had was the first ladies. Even when our men could not get the presidents to come to their function of the institute, we women had a way of doing it. We would get the first, yes we did. We would get the lady, who is either the vice president's wife or the president's wife, to our function. And then the men will, through that inroad, be able to tell them to influence their husbands so that they can come to the function. So we are great influencers. Yes. That's what women are. Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to ask Tahir to give us her opinion on the recommendations and action plan.
We first, the short term is to sponsoring girls' education. I think accountant, chartered accountant, the women of chartered accountant, the government, PAFA, the POs, we must sponsoring the girls' education, because the emancipation, if we don't have women emancipation, we can't do progress. Don't we? What? Wait.
Just speak in French, she will interpret.
Donc, je dis, en fait, il y a trop. Voilà. Je dis, la première recommandation que je voudrais, en fait, ce serait à court terme que chacun.
Sorry, we have.
I see you now.
What's the topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Je peux continuer. Oui, bien. Okay. Donc, je disais que ma première recommandation à court terme, ce serait que chacun s'y mette, qu'on essaye de voir à la base l'éducation de la petite fille depuis la base, qu'on essaye en fait de l'appuyer. Et chacun de nous pourra faire ça individuellement ou bien à travers des associations, la PAFA, les organisations professionnelles de la comptabilité ou même l'Union africaine pour progresser l'émancipation de la femme. Parce que je pense que la base des problèmes des femmes, c'est le niveau d'éducation qui diffère d'un pays à un autre, d'un continent à un autre. Donc, une fois qu'on arrive à régler cette question, je pense qu'on peut vraiment faire du progrès pour la femme. Ça, c'est le premier point. Par exemple, je vais vous donner un exemple pour le cas du Mali. On a créé les femmes experts comptables. Nous avons créé une association qui s'appelle ACOA Mali. Et ACOA Mali, on s'est donné comme objectif de suivre les filles depuis le bas âge. Par exemple, chaque année, à partir de l'année prochaine, chaque femme expert comptable doit encadrer une ou deux filles dans un premier temps. Donc, ça, on s'est fixé cet objectif. Le second point, à moyen terme, au Mali, nous avons un problème religieux. Parce que la petite fille se marie à bas âge. On a cette question-là et il faut quand même qu'on donne le temps à la femme de progresser dans les études. Parce que dès que tu te maries, les obligations professionnelles, tu ne pourras pas les respecter. Donc ça c'est à moyen terme, il faut qu'on essaye de voir cela. Ça c'est le second point. Après, à long terme, je me dis que ce soit le gouvernement, l'Union africaine, ou bien même la PAFA, il faudrait voir comment vous allez faire pour promouvoir encore plus l'émancipation de la femme africaine en général. Donc voilà très brièvement ce que je peux dire par rapport à ça.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say that, in addition to what you have said, that we must first of all tackle these old impediments to help us confront the new imperatives. Comprehensive action plan at different levels will minimize these constraints and maximize the opportunity. So, and it will going to take place at 3 levels. The level of corporate level, the PEOs, and the women themselves. For instance, we'll start for the corporations. It is good to restructure the workplace. I will recommend that there will be deliberate effort by corporate organizations to advertise and recruit women at this level because they are there. They are qualified and they are there. It's good to have a mix of both gender, diversity at the top. And I recommend too that there should be a unit of diversity and inclusiveness in human resources department of any organization. So when there is effort to improve, you have to have a target and measure the result of what you set out to do, of the objective, if you are serious about diversity. Then it may be desirable to define and validate a set of constructs that may be relevant to women career progression. Women complain about working hours because many people don't want their wives to work as accountants, as professionals, because they complain about the time factor, that they spend too much time in accounting work. So the flexibility in working hours for the women. Even as we speak, with the globalization and technology, visual platforms are commonplace. You don't have to converge at a particular building in order to do work together. People can work from different locations, and you factor this into the, if you care, because people complain, some organizations say these women get pregnant. You know they don't get pregnant by themselves. And they complain that they get pregnant. They complain that they raise children. The children they are raising are children of Africa. If they raise them, they nurture them. They are the future leaders. The greatest assets of any nation is human assets. Other ones are just embellishments. It's the human assets that the major asset. So opportunity for part-time should be developed alongside maternity leave. Even there should be arrangement for reimbursement in these areas, even where the organization is not able to provide one. Firms should learn to make inclusive arrangement or better plan out-of-station arrangement for women in order to tap their talent. The talents are there. Then they should provide success criteria to allow women to focus on their aspiration. Even the PAOs, they should be able to offer partnership and carry women along. Many accounting firms don't even have women in their workforce. Women are team builders and they contribute a lot to organization. Any organization that is aiming for success, I know one whom they are looking for. They are looking for women. All stakeholders must be aware of each other's needs and expectations. And women professionals should actively seek for mentorship, even within the organizations. Then, for women themselves, women should change their professional women accountants, should be able to change their perception. You can't stay there. Life is not an El Dorado. The accounting profession has a specialized career path. Therefore, an individual attitude towards his work or her work is the difference between success and failure. You have to be serious about your accounting. If you wait for anybody to come and promote you, it will be far. Because men, apart from this issue of traditional issues, men somehow, when the boys are hanging out, they don't want men to be intruding and interfering. This is part of the reason when they don't want them at that level. Because they don't want intrusion of women, because sometimes they have different arrangements. Where they, yes. Let me just give you just one short experience. I was appointed to go on a conference with a male boss at the time. He was resisting that I would go. I didn't know why. But the chief executive insisted that I would go. He said that I'm the only one who gives reports in writing. When I attend any conference, or if you have sponsored me for anything, I give you a detailed report. When I eventually travel, then I found out because he traveled with his cousin. So that's why he did not want me. So this exclusion is not because they don't like women. It's because they don't want women. The culture has made it that it's men that own this particular profession. So women are, intruding in a male-preserved area. And women should be creative and innovative too in the key areas of development. In ANA, for instance, the past president of ANA, incidentally is here, they have helped women, to strategize. They are ready now. They have helped women, the career capacity building, like this continuing education, to help everybody, and it is zoned in various areas of the nation, of the country, so that everybody will be able to participate. Even if you are busy, there's one near your place. So they now have the ANA women professionals, and they are pro-ones, and they are moving very well and strategically too. So, in all, even the government, let me not miss this point. Is that okay? The government themselves, their advocacy for gender diversity to take on. There should be legislation for affirmative action. The same way you legislated the gender gap in education through affirmative action. That one, came to be a success. Even leadership in political offices is through affirmative action. And I don't see why it cannot be a success in the corporate organization. Then specifically, for action plan, we can set up both short-term and long medium actions to overcome gender divide challenges. For instance, gender analysis is critical for the design of effective solutions. There is need for all African female professionals to form Gender Strategy Intervention Council. It's a platform where all the professional women, especially in male-dominated professions, should come together. The first responsibility may be to commence with staff questionnaires and the external consultation, including face-to-face meetings, focus group discussions, to find out the baseline assessment of factors that are factors of discrimination in all across the continent. The Council will work with African government for affirmative action among all the member states of African Union. It will be necessary to organize public awareness campaign about anti-discrimination legislation and mechanisms of protection against gender-based discrimination. The Council also should push for realization of social justice, because in a profession where man and woman are doing the same job and there is a salary differential, it's not just discrimination, it's injustice of the highest order. So that injustice should be fought. Social inclusion in achieving sustainable development for Africa. The Council should also seek technical assistance in areas of capacity building. Listen conclusively, what I'm saying, you know, like the plane gets up. If Africa must rise, it must rise with its tentacles. Otherwise, it will never reach its destination. Thank you very much.